That's my new intro. You have to start these videos just by looking like taking the most painful, biggest shit in the world, and it's just not coming out. That's a metaphor for we that live in the matrix, but we the shit trying to come out of the matrix, but we can't because that hole is too tight. So people got this crazy idea these days that we the best people that ever lived. But that makes no freaking sense if you look around actually. Yeah, maybe we got the fastest freaking internet, fastest connections that ever has been there. Maybe. But what are we doing with that? What have we sacrificed for all these technological gains? We made the biggest sacrifice there is. We sacrificed our own humanity. We sacrificed our own selves, our own health. We sacrificed the connection with other people for the internet connections. And we sacrificed our relationship with the nature, the Mother Earth. We are by far the unhealthiest human beings that have ever lived in this earth. Show me the study though. Well, how about for once we use our own common freaking sense. Oh, what? Your brain ain't working? You got that brain fog 24/7? You feel like you're retarded? Like most people these days? Oh, that just goes to show my point. We are the unhealthiest people. Our brains, that thing right there, that ain't working for most people. Where the hell common sense went? I haven't seen people with common sense in a while. Okay, there's maybe a couple ones. There's a one guy I know that has common sense still. I'm trying to come up with these videos with my couple brain cells left. Even couple brain cells can give you that base knowledge these days. That's how easy it is to be a genius in 2024. Okay, but for real, let's break it down. We are by far the most unhealthy human beings that ever lived. How do I know that? Well, just look around. Look around other people. Look into yourself. How do you feel? How are people feel? Now, was I there back in the days when they built the pyramids? Was I there back in the days in the Middle Ages when the Black Death was going around? Well, I was not. And if I was, I don't remember that. But even then back in the days, when we think about, some people have this crazy idea that back in the days everything was so shit. People sucked back in the days. We the best now. People were so unhealthy back in the days. The life expectancy was so low back in the days. Well, even those people got way more what human beings need, and they got way less what human beings definitely don't need, and what is actually toxic for human beings. They got way less of that and way more of that good shit back in the days. Well, the biggest problem probably back in the days was malnutrition and starving to death, and they just didn't get enough what they need. But also they didn't get the insane amount of pollution and toxicity that we, the modern human beings, we the best, we the worst. We sacrificed everything for this shit. Now this is a real simple way to see how bad we are really doing. Just look at what human beings need to be healthy, strong, happy, all those good ass things that all human beings want and need to actually thrive, to blossom, all that good stuff. How much do we got those? Not much. Let's go into that a little bit later. And then there's the bad things, what human beings definitely don't need, don't want, and it's actually detrimental to us The toxicity, the pollution, how much do we got those these days? A lot. Now back in the days, those weak, stupid-ass caveman human beings, when you look at it, at least they got most of what they needed back in the days. The nutrition was way better. The only problem was maybe they didn't have enough of it. But the earth, the mother earth, was way more healthy. The soils were way more healthy. The animals, they were way more healthy. People ate way better food when they got food. So the malnutrition part, that was probably the biggest problem back in the days for the peasants. But even then, the food was way better, way more nutritious back in the days. Way less toxicity, way less pollution. The waters, same thing. The air, same thing. People were way more outside under this thing that's shining right now to my face through the glass. So it's actually not really doing its thing. But it's so freaking cold right now. I live in Finland. It's freaking cold. If I open that glass, I get hypothermia. I'm gonna die. But anyway, like I was saying, back in the days, the connection with other people, that was way more. We lived in way more natural environment. The housing, the shelters we built from natural materials. These days, not so much. So we were basically grounded 24/7. Our circadian rhythm was with this thing right there. These days we look at screens, we look at like unnatural lighting all the time. People's circadian rhythm is all fucked up. We're gonna go into all that stuff a little bit later. But let's just romanticize people back in the days, how good people actually had it if they had the food and the water. Because sometimes maybe they didn't have, some of the peasants. But when they did have that food was real good. It lacked the toxicity, the pollution the food these days has, and it had the nutrition value way up there because the soils, the earth we live in, was way healthier back in the days. But anyway, the shelters people had, they were way more natural. We were grounded all the time. We were out there in the nature. The connection with other people, probably a lot better. There were a lot of wars back in the days. That started sometime after we fall from the Garden of Eden. The wars with other tribes, that kinda sucked. So there was a lot of violence, a lot of death through that. So that was that. Human beings definitely don't need that. But we still got that. And it is, well, you can say it's not as brutal, maybe. And who even knows about history, really? Who even know exactly what was happening back in the days? So let's not go too much deep into that. But this is just the point. The Mother Earth was way more healthy back in the days. So when people got food, water, air, it was way better back in the days. And the housing was way more natural back in the days. And that gets us to these days, what we sacrificed for our luxury, comfortable lives. We sacrificed everything. This comfortability, this comfort, it ain't it, dog. These fast internet connections, it ain't it, dog. These social media apps. You can see what it does to human beings. So let's get into what we need and we don't get it. We don't get it that much at all these days. It's going really bad. And what we don't need, we have a lot more these days. Let's begin with the nutrition. First, the soils are way more depleted because we have monocropped the shit out of them. Our farming practices have become very destructive to Mother Earth because we want that profit. This ties very well back to my last video I made, why everything sucks now. It's because of the dollar bill, y'all. Cash rules everything around us. And we sacrificed everything for a little bit of profit, little bit of greed. So now the soils freaking suck. Secondly, the animals we are supposed to eat, they get their nutrition from the soils, the waters, the oceans, the lakes. They are extremely polluted. So that's why the fishy fish, the seafood, human beings love to eat. That gives us that nutrition. Well, it gives us some of the nutrition, but it also comes with those things that we don't need, that mercury, heavy metals, toxicity, because we polluted our oceans, we polluted our lands too. Let's get into the vegetables. Secondly, people have this incredible misconception that human beings need to eat the rainbow, need to eat the vegetables, the fruits. But when you look just a little bit back, most of the fruits and vegetables we see these days weren't around. If you lived in Finland, now we eat a lot of potatoes. But where are potatoes from? They're from South America, Chile I think or something, and they came to Europe only like 200-300 years ago, and even then people didn't really like them. Potatoes nightshades, they got those lectins. The people that ate the potatoes in the Chile area, South America area, they had this traditional way to making them, fermenting them 3 days, whatever. You can go look that up. But the point here is that most of the vegetables weren't around like they are. Human beings really ain't even supposed to eat that many vegetables. And when we eat vegetables, we prepare them in certain ways. We use fermenting, all that, to destroy most of the anti-nutrients vegetables have. But even then, the vegetables back in the days, they were different. We have hybridized them, just like fruits. Fruits, the same thing. Most of the fruits, like if you live in Finland, now you can get all the fruits there is. But like 50 years ago, 100 years ago, there were the apples. We have apples maybe a couple of weeks in a year. We got some berries, blueberries, maybe a month in a year. How much fruits are we supposed to eat when you think about it? These days we have these hybridized vegetables and fruits everywhere. Secondly, they grow in a soil that is much less nutrient rich, so there is not so much nutrients anymore. Thirdly, we use a lot of herbicides, pesticides. Ever heard about Roundup? Glyphosate? Ever heard about that? Look into that. So you can see that the vegetables and fruits, they are full of things human beings don't want, that are toxic to human bodies, and there's way less the things human beings need from them. But even more importantly, these vegetables and fruits, these hybridized, man-made vegetables and fruits, they're a very new thing here. And what does the government want you to eat the most? Think about it. These things are very new. Like my grandparents, when they were born, they didn't have any of this. My grandparents were born before World War II. Back in the... Well, you can argue about that. But anyway, the point is, there were so much less these things that the government wants you to eat. But even then, when there were those things, they were very pure. They were grown on soil that has way more nutrition, and there were not these man-made hybridized things we have these days, and people knew how to prepare them to eat them correctly, to minimize the anti-nutrition, the things that are harmful in vegetables and lesser degree on fruits to human beings. But even then in the fruits, the sugar content back in the days, in the natural wild fruits, the sugar content is way less and you get way more vitamins. These days, this has also flipped. Now then, let's look at the animals, what human beings are actually supposed to eat mostly. Because animal foods give us human beings the most what human beings need in terms of nutrition. We get most of the nutrition from the animal foods, and they give us the least amount of the things human beings don't need, the toxicity. Now these days, the wild animals are obviously the best to eat, but they cost you a lot of money if you don't go hunt them yourself. But there is all these regulations and rules and all this shit. So even natural tribes these days, they don't have food like they used to have. We fucked it up for them also. Then we have these factory farms these days. And what do these animals eat? They don't eat what animals are supposed to eat. And then when we eat those animals that ate something they weren't supposed to eat, they didn't get their needs met. And they get that toxicity already. Where does that toxicity go? It's that animal flesh thing. And then you eat those factory farmed, poorly raised animals. Again, you get less what you need because the animals didn't get what they needed, and you get more what you don't need. You get more pollution, you get more toxicity out of those animals. So same thing with the sea life, like I said, the waters, they have been poisoned, polluted a lot. So if you eat seafood or just like fish from the lakes, I have heard the lakes and rivers in America, they are extremely polluted. So you shouldn't even maybe eat fish from those lakes and rivers. But you have to see the water quality by your location. You have to do some own research. How are the waters when you live? And that gets us into water. The water these days also very polluted in many areas. And on top of that, people mostly probably drink the tap water. What's into that? There's a lot of things human beings don't need and don't want. They put that fluoride in the water, whatever else. And the pipes the water's going from, that might be very polluted. So most of the water human beings drink these days is extremely toxic for maybe probably. Plastic bottles, big one. People back in the days, they didn't have even plastic. That's a whole... Our taints are so freaking small right now. We store our food and water in plastics and cans and all these things that leach toxic heavy metals, toxic chemicals, toxicity. And where does that toxicity go? It goes to our bodies and it starts to build that. The air, the same thing. The air is way more polluted than it was even like 50 years ago. But 100 years ago, man, that freaking piranha was so tasty. So the plastics in general, not just in the food and water, that we also get it a lot, but just in the things we use, the chopping boards we use to cut our foods, our unnatural foods, those are plastic many times. Our clothes there might be some plastic, and in general our clothes are very unnatural. Like the natural clothes like linen, wool, the animal hides, what people have been wearing all this time until now in the modern times. They let your body breathe, they are not off-gassing all these toxic chemicals into you. But now most of the fashion, we have to have this fashion, we have to have all these clothes that take away resources from Mother Earth, when actually we would maybe do very well with a couple clothes. And the clothes we have, they freaking suck. They use slave labor many of the times, and the material is not good for us. It doesn't let our skin breathe. It's off-gassing. Again, it's off-gassing some unnatural chemicals into us when we wear them all the time. Then the bed sheets, we sleeping, our pillows, all that leads to the shelters, the housing we have these days. We use a lot of unnatural things that might be off-gassing again, toxic pollution, toxic chemicals. We don't build things from natural resources anymore. Back in the days, everything was built from natural resources, wood, stone, all that. Now we use a lot of chemicals, painting. I heard about in America there's those carpets that are extremely bad. Like there's many cases. Like every time you do things against nature, it always leads to bad outcomes for human beings usually. Because it goes against our own nature. We get from our environment things that we definitely don't need, and we don't get that grounding. What we really need is that human touch, and touch from the Mother Earth. Mother Earth needs to touch you also a lot of the times. So back in the days with the housing, the cribs, the shelters, they were way more natural. The tribal shelters are probably the best because you're grounding 24/7. That's amazing. We know how good grounding, touching Mother Earth is. These days, we don't do that. We're touching unnatural things, and we build things unnaturally just because we want to make that profit. But what does that profit lead you? We're just becoming more and more sick, more and more unhealthy, and it's getting worse and worse. Our offspring, when people get too much of the things human beings don't need, the toxicity starts to build up in our bodies. And where does that go? Well, if we die, it dies with us, and we die way earlier, and we suffer way more with this toxicity. Most of these human beings ain't supposed to be this diseased, weak, mentally ill, depressed people we are these days. Like almost everybody knows people that have died very early to some horrible diseases, and then people know people that are suffering from those diseases right now at very early age also, and it is happening earlier and earlier because this toxicity, this just builds up. When the mothers and fathers are toxic, what do you think the offspring is gonna be like? It's gonna be weaker and weaker, and that's what you see all around you. Because we live in this very toxic environment, and we don't get enough what we need, and we get way more what we don't need. So the offspring is becoming more diseased, more weaker by the day. The next generations, I mean, it's looking real bad right now. Because firstly, there's way too much toxicity for our body to deal with, and it is constant stream of toxicity. Like if your body can maybe handle it, if you get a little bit of toxicity here and there, your body can handle it, and even better, your body can handle it if your body gets what it needs. But we don't get even that anymore these days. But then it's that consistent stream of toxicity coming into your body. So that toxicity, it's just gonna build and build up in your body, and the effects are everywhere. Then let's get into the medications, the medical industry, because that's another field that's being completely changed by the Rockefellers, the petrochemical industry. Look into that, why they did it, for their profit again. That's another area. We get way more toxicity, and we don't get anything human beings need. Back in the days, human beings would heal other people through nutrition, through diet, and that's how you do heal. But even then, these days, there's so much confusion and so much toxicity from the diet also. So that's pretty freaking bad. So you need to actually know what you're doing. Like really good, you need to know exactly what you're doing if you want to heal yourself from nutrition. But it is very possible. That's the easiest way to heal from most of these diseases, if the toxic level of your body is not off the charts. Because there comes a point where the toxicity level is just too damn high, and there's nothing, it's just basically over for your ass then. But back in the days, people realized, and it was easier because the Mother Earth was more healthy, there was way less toxicity, but people realized that they could heal through diet. But these days, people just put a band-aid on a big ass wound, and they put more toxicity to mask some symptoms from the previous toxicity they already had. It's just toxicity on top of toxicity. with these medical interventions, this petrochemical industry that also destroyed the food production, the farming. So these guys destroyed the farming, the crops, the Mother Earth, the soil, they destroyed that. Then they put all the toxic chemicals to the vegetables and the things the animals eat. And then top of that, when we get the toxicity from there, they got these medications ready for us that are also very toxic for us. Now next up, let's talk about these electronics, these radio signals, these frequencies, these powerful frequencies we have freaking everywhere now. We got these towers. I can see a couple right now on top of the roofs out here. These towers, 5G, 4G, it's just going stronger and stronger, so we can have a little bit faster connections with our internet. But what does those things do to us again? I don't even think we realize yet how bad they're gonna be. Like that, the research, the science is always, first of all, late. And there's always some scheming with the science. There's always money involved in science. The big corporations, the big industries, they're gonna affect the science a lot with their influence, with their money, because they want these things into the system, into the environment we live in, because that's how they make that shiny thing again. So these electromagnetic frequencies, very new thing again. Do human beings need them? I don't think so. We seem to do a lot better when we didn't have them. Do they give our body something we don't need? Are they actually harmful for our bodies? Probably. And the more powerful, more unnatural these signals, these frequencies are, and more you are exposed to them, closer you are to them, the worse it's gonna be for you. I wouldn't put my phone, unless it's in airplane mode, I wouldn't put that close to my ball sack every single day. I wouldn't put that thing close to my brain every single day. And again, we don't get the frequencies we need from maybe some beautiful music. And the earth, the Mother Earth, it has its own frequency. We don't be close to that anymore. The Schumann resonance, all that. We don't be close to that anymore. We don't hear that. We hear all these man-made demonic frequencies when we listen to music these days a lot. And on top of that, all these frequencies we don't see but are affecting us all the time, especially if you live in cities. So again, we don't get what we need, and we get way more what we don't need. So when you start to add all of these things up, it starts to become very clear why we are having all these problems. Very clear. And the more these unnatural things human beings don't need, actually we want to avoid them, but we don't, because we want to make that profit, and we don't care about our own health. We don't care about other people's health, and we don't care about Mother Earth's health, because shiny. But anyways, every which way do you look, there's way too much toxicity and pollution for our bodies and our minds and our spirits. The relationships, that's another thing, like I said. And then you can talk about the spiritual things or whatever. But yeah, I get why so many people, like, there's no point anymore. So many young people do this YOLO lifestyle. First it's brainwashed, it's programmed into them because all the other cool people do it. So they go along with it, they don't really think about it. And secondly, what's the freaking point? The relationship sucks anyways. The connection between males and females, it's been fucked up to brainwashing and programming, and all these things tie together. Like, you have to understand, everything is everything. The more you can stack these toxic things on human beings, the worse the effects are gonna be. Like, every way. Physically, mentally, spiritually, whatever. Like, more you can stack the toxicity, the more toxic you're gonna be, the more you're gonna feel all these negative effects. And the less you can have them, the better chance we have is to plump out of this matrix and create some better kind of system, or go back to the Garden of Eden days, which means basically back into nature. That's the real answer to all of this. That's where the real happiness awaits human beings. That's where the real health awaits human beings. So just start looking at things. What do I need as a human being? And what do other human beings need? Now, you can go wrong ways in that path also, but I basically in this video told you what human beings need, if you listened. And then look at what human beings don't need, what are toxic to human body, human beings. We got way less what we need these days in every level, physical, mental, spiritual, and we get way more what we don't need, what we don't want, what is actually harmful for us. So that's the pickle we are in. It's looking pretty bad, but we can make change. Human bodies are incredible. It's the most intelligent, most incredible, most amazing machine, you can call it, that there is. Our bodies that we live in, our consciousness, it's incredible, and we can heal a lot. We can regenerate a lot if we start doing things how we're supposed to do things. But we actually have to start doing things how human beings are supposed to do things if we want to heal, if we want to regenerate. We have to stop the coping. We have to stop delusions. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard for you, my son. You're gonna cry a couple nights. You're gonna shed a couple tears because those copes, the copes are hugging us, our poor selves, because we don't got those human hugs anymore. I understand. But we have to start doing it. We have to start giving our bodies and minds and hearts and spirits and our nature what it needs. And then we can heal easy. We can heal like that. We can regenerate. We can become actually stronger. Unlike when you go to the gym and have freaking ice baths all the time. You become your best version then. You become strong then. When you go against your senses, you go against your nature, you become real strong. You become the best version you can be when you go with your nature. You harmonize with the nature, your nature and nature there. That's the way to actually be strong AF up in this beach. Hope you learned something. Comment down below if I missed something. I'm kinda just ranting away. I kinda like it. It's my style. See you on the next one. Start giving your body what it needs. Start working with the nature. And stop giving your body what it doesn't need. Stop going against your nature. Stop repressing your nature. See ya later, alligator.